Thanks for tuning in to see what's happening in and around Grace Church. We are so grateful for you and your interest in staying connected and looking at what all's going on so that you can participate in the ongoing worship and building of God's kingdom in this place. And so, as we look ahead, I just want to point to one announcement, and then I want to invite you into a habit, a way that you can meaningfully minister to people here at Grace Church. And so the announcement side of it is that we are currently in our budgeting season where we're preparing our budget for the upcoming year, meaning that all of our ministry teams have put together what they think they need for this coming year. Our maintenance team, everyone has put together their budget reports. And so if you have questions about how the budget is used, how it's put together, or you have something that you'd like to speak into and offer ideas about, we want to encourage you to go to ministry leaders of that area. So if you have a question about how it's being used within women's ministry or men's ministry, go to those deacons and ask them and share your ideas with them. We want to hear from you, and we want to be ready to explain any questions that you may have so that you are aware of how we are functioning in a way that is appropriate. And so we're ready to share that information with you, ready to receive questions from you and ideas as well as we look ahead. And so our budget will be voted on December 8th at our annual meeting, and we look forward to that time together when everything is finalized and put together. So if you have questions, it really does need to be right in these next couple of weeks here before we finalize. The invitation for you today is to consider how you as a individual are functioning in a healthy way in the midst of this body. And here's what I mean by that. When we look at Ephesians chapter 6, we have this call for believers to put on the armor of God. And in putting on the armor of God, there's different pieces of armor that represent different aspects of what it means to live out the faith. And really, what is being called to the believer is to live a life of health before God. And that's the same thing that we're studying in Hebrews. We are really holding up a mirror. And right now, in chapters 3 and 4, we're holding up this mirror and we're looking at all of our imperfections. We're in light of who Christ is in his perfection, what we're seeing is all of our imperfections. And that can be really humbling. But in that, there can be a lot of opportunity for health. There can be lots of opportunity to grab hold of the appropriate pieces of armor that God provides so that we can be equipped to move forward in a more healthy way together. And so we're aiming to not only exalt Christ in all that he is through the book of Hebrews and studying his supremacy, but we also are aiming to be healthy followers. That today, if we hear his voice, we're going to respond, we're going to listen, and we're going to apply. And one of the challenges that I've been offering to many lately is, what would it look like for you to come into every uh, ministry opportunity, whether it's an event or a worship service or something that you're leading, a life group that you're leading, whatever the case may be, what would it look like if on your way to that ministry opportunity, you just prayed and said, Lord, show me one person who I can pray with today, one person who I can encourage through prayer today. One of the things we've talked a lot about as a church is scripture-fed, spirit-led, worship-based prayer. We want to use the Bible. We want to pray it back to the Lord as we're digesting what it means and pray that we would faithfully enter into it. And so in Ephesians 6, as we're talking about the armor of God, notice what the application is of having that armor on. It says this right after talking about putting on the armor in verse 18, praying at all times in the Spirit with all power and supplication. To the end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints. You see, when we are healthy before the Lord, when we are walking rightly before him, we are invited into prayer. Prayer is something we use to get healthy. It's something we use to right our relationship with God, but it's also something we use to grow in our relationship with God. It's also something that we're called to enter into with other believers. And so, my challenge to you, my invitation to you, is would you start praying with regularity? Lord, who's someone I can pray with today? Who's someone that I can encourage in prayer today? Would you help me to see that person? Would you help me to be bold enough and to have the courage to ask them if I can pray with them? What might the Lord do if we as a church were faithful to growing in our health as a body before Him and being committed to praying over one another and coming before His throne as His children? What might God do in this place? I want to encourage you to enter into this challenge with me. And I'm praying that the Lord will give you ample opportunity to pray with and for everyone who is in the church. We want to pray that God would go before us, that He would guard us, that He would protect us, that He would cultivate new truths in our lives, and that He would embolden us to go forward with the gospel, to proclaim it in all of Delta County and beyond, so that His kingdom may be built, so that His name may be praised and worshiped in this place. Would you join me in being the church of Christ? We are looking forward to worshiping with you on Sunday.